Hey everyone, it's Sarah, the elder millennial.
And this is Bill, the infant boomer. Welcome to Strengths on Fire, the podcast for strengths enthusiasts who want to have fun while leveling up.
Get ready for a mix of powerful insights, unexpected stories, and plenty of laughs along the way. Hey Bill, you want to light these strengths on fire?
Sarah, let's light it up! Well, hey Sarah, how are you?
Hi, Mr. Dipple. I'm doing great. How you doing today?
Outstanding. Having a absolutely perfect day. And by the way, I know people listen to this when they want, but happy holidays. We're out of the holidays. We are
into the new year. It is officially 2025.
Yes, perfect. It is.
We've made it.
And we've taken a little time off. So
yes, we have.
I've missed Sarah. I haven't been able to hang out and laugh with Sarah.
I have missed you because I've been home with my children. And I tell you what, I was telling you before we got on today, that is a great way to get the worst of me. Like, I wish I could say I just love the time home and it's so cozy and we just hang out. But I have 2 5-year-olds and a 6-year-old, and it is a little torturous, and it gets cold here in Nebraska and there's not that much to do. And we're just like rolling over each other, making messes, cleaning them up. And I just seriously, this is not how you get the best of me. This is when the worst of me comes out. Like, I haven't been working. I haven't talked to like adults that are not in my family. I haven't been going out and doing things on my own. Turns out I need that. Turns out that's important to me.
Yeah.
You know, we say woo needs to eat. Well, my woo is starving.
and there's this soapbox moment by Sarah, brought to you by Lululemon. I'm just throwing. Fortunate on my world, I am a grandfather, so the children have gone. They are out of the house, so we get to take in the grandchildren for a big event. We had a great Thanksgiving, and then kindly give them back. So we get our.
So nice.
There is a benefit to that part of it, and seeing the kids and seeing the grandkids, and had amazing experiences this year with the kids. So, but in that, right, there can always be a little tension or a wonderful laughter time. So I'm curious, is there anything in your world, Sarah, anything that never fails to make you laugh no matter how many times you see it?
Okay, well, this is so funny because my children, who I've mentioned, I have a son who is 6 and twin daughters that are 5, and they love making me laugh. In fact, when I put my kids to bed, I always spend some quality, like 5 to 10 minutes with each of them alone at bedtime. And my son is always trying to tickle me. And I'll be like, hey, can you just like stop? And he said to me one night, Mom, when you laugh, it makes my heart warm. Oh my gosh. So they're constantly trying to make me laugh. So I actually have a very good idea about what makes me laugh. And unfortunately, the things that make me laugh, I wish didn't, because like they have learned if they do things like, "Ooh, I'm shaking my booty butt." It's just funny. It just is.
Oh,
I don't know why. When they make
God.
those little faces and they do these like goofy things and they use different voices like, "Oh, Mom, look at me shake my booty butt."
You might be the perfect modern mother. Congratulations. That is really good. That is perfect.
But when the girls had show and tell for the letter B, Grace was like, "I'm going to show them my booty butt." And I was like, don't do that. Do not go to school and say booty butt is your show and tell.
Oh my God. The booty butt. That's going on our shirt. We're trying to come up with a logo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
That's something like that's got it. I'm just telling you, we're going to take something from everything. Get it on the logo.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Okay, how about you? What's for sure going to make you laugh, Mr. Dipple?
You heard it here first.
Yes.
Booty butt is in, twerking is out. So we're doing a replacement.
That's a replacement. The booty butt is officially in.
Booty butt's in.
I do like the booty butt.
I don't know.
Laughing. So
you asked me this question.
I did.
Just think you would be prepared.
I don't always like, so that our list and our guests today know, we don't prep those questions for each other. She doesn't know what I'm going to ask. I don't know. And I don't even know that I'm going to be the one asking the question. We have a little ritual at the beginning that our guest unfortunately had to witness today. So I don't even prep whether I do it. I would tell you that for me on the laughter side, not that much makes me laugh. I like roasts. So last night I rewatched a roast. So I actually like edgy, hard hitting kind of comedy, right? Because I think if you're all okay with it and you know what's coming, that will make me laugh. I actually watched the Tom Brady roast last night, and I've seen it. I've actually seen parts of it before because I had to. I've always loved Nikki Glazer. I think she's hysterical.
She was that roast launched her into stardom.
It really
year.
did, yeah. And but I've always liked her, so I thought I had to go watch that. I've seen some parts of it, so I guess what would make me laugh is always edgy. Kind of edgier humor, something that's really funny. I was a big Will and Grace fan, so not everybody liked Will and Grace, but there is an edginess to that humor that always made me laugh. But I would tell you that getting me to cry is easier than getting me to laugh.
Oh,
so there's a scene in Field of Dreams that I can't get through. So
like,
I guess
he's just talking about it. He's getting emotional.
I am. You're absolutely
Are you
right.
going to cry right now?
There is a little scene in Field of Dreams that I cannot get through. And no matter how many times I watch it, I'm just gonna well up.
Can you tell us about right now? Or are you going to cry?
Well, I'll probably cry because it's such a simple little scene, but for some reason it's always really moved me. It's when Doc is on the field and he's playing, and the young girl starts choking on the hot dog, and he runs to the edge of the field, and he wants to help, but he knows if he steps off the field, he's no longer going to be there, and just watching him do it and come in and then help the little girl and save her, but knowing he has to get to that edge, and he has that moment of, I love everything about what I'm doing, but I'm needed there, and that's important. And for some reason, right at that episode, right there, I just get, no matter how many times I see it, it just gets me. So,
that is so moving.
It's easier for me. It's easier to get me on the emotional, cry side than it is to get me on the laughing side. Although a good roast will always make me laugh.
That must be why you like co-hosting with me, because I am always
the roast does never end. It is fair.
Never ends.
Between my age and my, my wallet, my, whatever you want to bring up. Apparently there's a lot of roasting going on here. And I'm hoping our guest helps me with that roasting today. Maybe we get a little roast on Sarah if we can do that today.
Well, you keep trying, but keep trying. I don't know. I
just am not that good at it. Well, we've heard from her a little bit today. She knows she spotted me getting emotional just thinking about a movie I haven't seen in like 4 years. So I would love to introduce our amazing guest today, Lindsay Bradley. Lindsay, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. Happy 2025.
We are excited to have you here. I have known Lindsay for a couple of years. She lives local with me in the Reno area, but she also does large events. She does some coaching on her own, not a Gallup coach, but does other types of coaching. But Lindsay, I know you as in these sliced ways. Can you do us a favor? Tell us your top 10, just run through them real quick. And then tell us what you do and maybe a little bit about how you got there. How did you get to exactly what you do, and how did the strengths play into that?
Sure. Okay, so starting with top 10. So in order, I guess, number 1, learner, then futuristic, relator, responsibility, maximizer, strategic, achiever, discipline, significance, focus, individualization, and arranger.
Oh, she went to 12. Oh, she went.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No, that's good. You go to 12.
Yeah.
If you use
it, I'm an overachiever. So I was just like going on number 7 and just had to like do one up myself.
Hey, if you resonate with those, they're yours, right?
That's right. You claim as many as you want to, Lindsay Bradley.
Yeah.
You get them, Lindsay. So what and what are you doing now? What is it you bring, and how did you get to where you are?
Yes. So Guided Arrows is a company that I started about 5 years ago. I do HR strategy consulting. And so what that means is it's kind of meant a lot of different things from when I initially first started my company. It was to do more of an HR outsourcing type service and function for small businesses. And it's really evolved over time because I really started to lean into the things that I really like to do, what really gave me energy, and then figured out the things that I don't like to do. and was like, okay, we need to like change this because I'm getting drained and I don't like my business anymore. And I was like, I got to that point where I was like, I think I'm done. And then I was like, no, actually, I think I just need to change what I'm offering. And so went through kind of this revamp, but got into kind of the HR realm, about over 12 years ago. And it really started because I got thrown into a startup environment after working in the dental industry for almost 9 years. And the startup world was like this magical place. And it turned into something that was really tapping into a lot of my strengths. But back then I didn't know what these strengths were. And then watching it evolve over time. But I was able to like just learn so much from being in the startup environment and wanted to, build companies and, build people, bring people in and create companies, create jobs for people. And that's kind of where the HR aspect came in. And so I really started to learn and focus on more of that HR side of companies and being involved. And so after, working in several different positions and different industries, really fell in love with HR, fell in love with people, helping them be successful, showing them the talents that they didn't realize they had and helping them grow into just great people and grow their careers, and also help businesses be successful and entrepreneurs bringing their vision to life. And so that's what really got me started in creating Guided Arrows. But part of what really inspired me to start it was some experiences that I had, back in the start of my career, of having a bad boss and having a micromanaging boss and a really bad culture where I was literally like driving into work and in the parking lot, like having a meltdown in the parking lot. And I was like, I cannot go in because the culture was just so toxic. And I'm like, no one should have to feel this way when they go to work. And that was like my number one driver for starting my business. I'm like, I need to give these tools and help small business owners understand what not to do.
Wow.
Yeah. So many people, so many career changes have happened because of the boss, right? We often phrase people don't quit jobs, they quit bosses, they quit other people, right? And I hear that in you. I hear your voice hitting that. And you have Relator number 3. So that relationship equity needs to be deep with a boss. You need to have some structure and contingency with the boss that you can build on. And if you're driving into work feeling, I have none of this, I don't know how this is supposed to go. Yeah. Gosh, that can be disengaging, right? How often we work with people that feel disengaged because that's exactly the reason.
Absolutely. And I love what you said, like people should not be feeling that way. I always use this stat. We spend over 90,000 hours of our lives working, which is more than we do anything besides sleeping. And I always say, like, you should not be miserable. Like, that is a huge chunk of your life. Why just let yourself be crying in the parking lot before you go in? But I think a lot of people get comfortable in the misery, and they would rather stay in the misery.
Right.
Because it's comfortable and it's familiar, than take the risk like you did, which I think is so admirable and cool that you said, no, this ends. I'm not going to live this life. I'm going to do it. And it is risky and scary to quit a job and become an entrepreneur. And the fact that you did that, I just think says a lot about you, because it is a hard thing to do, to get uncomfortable, to seek out more and to seek out better.
Yeah. And what's really, it took me a little while from that experience, and I went into some other jobs, and that I actually left that job and went into kind of like a startup job. I'm like, I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, all I've known is dentistry for the last 9 years. I'm like, and you want me to start a tech company with you? Like, I don't even understand like what is happening right now, let alone that it was in the corrections industry. I'm like, so you're going to throw me into a jail now? Okay, well, this is really interesting. So that's what started my career. But, what I'm so thankful for that position is my boss at that time, the mentorship. And I learned so much. Like, he was so impactful in my career and like what happened from there and everything that followed. So I will be forever grateful for that boss in particular, because he was the one saying like, you have so much potential. Like, you can do this. I believe in you. Like, go. He was like constantly pushing me out of my comfort zone. So long story short, that really took me into a couple different, career steps. but it was the last position that I had before I started my business, which, by the way, started my company in 2020. So that was awesome timing. But so finally take the leap and leave the cushy job. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like, thanks. Appreciate that. It was at that moment in that particular position where I was no longer aligned to the values of the rest of the company. And instead of saying, okay, yeah, nothing's wrong necessarily, I can just sit back and kind of coast in this, but that values alignment really bothered me. And when I gave my resignation, the thing that came up was like, well, how much more money do you want? Like, how do we just solve this? Like, their answer and solution was to like throw more money at it. And I'm like, this just really solidified that we are definitely not aligned, because there is no amount of money. Like, that doesn't solve the problem for me. That doesn't give me a sense of purpose. Yeah. And so that's when I knew I made the right decision.
Yeah. And I am curious, if we look at your strengths, where do you think that comes from? Because I think, one, so cool to hear you say it was the values alignment. This is, I'm a former career coach, and this is what I'm always preaching to people about. That's what we really need to make our decisions on. And oftentimes when we're feeling disconnected at work, it can be a values misalignment. So the fact that you saw that is so cool, but it feels so strong for you to recognize that. What do you think played a part when you look at your strengths with the recognition of realizing the values weren't aligned and that you needed to do something else?
I think that part of like significance comes into play. Like, I felt like there was something out there for me. Like, I knew I could make an impact, like based on what I had accomplished and using transferable skills to move into different industries and really adapt in those different environments. But I'm like, I want to do something that is really going to make a difference for someone. So I think that significance piece really is a driving factor, even for me now. It's like, how do I get in and help a small business owner not make those same mistakes? How do I help them see there's a better way to create mutual value exchange in the workplace? Like, it doesn't have to be one-sided. And so I think that is always what's driving me, is that significance of, obituary time. It's like, what do I want to be known for? And like, here's where she made an impact. Here's how she helped me. Or just hearing, former employees come up to me and say, thank you for taking the time to coach me and tell me I was worth more, that I wasn't going to just be a warehouse worker for the rest of my life. Like, I want to be a leader. I want to do bigger things, and watch them transform and lean into some of the coaching and really take hold of what I was telling them. That just means the world to me. So I think that significance piece of making a difference in people's lives.
Wow. So good. And as I hear that as well, I also want to touch on, I love that you brought up significance, because it's one I don't have, and I love hearing it in other people. But as Sarah asked that question, I'm looking over some of your other themes. I'm curious how maybe learning about the other people, learning about the jobs, you're number one. So that's an obvious maybe pickup, but also maximizer, which is number 5 for you. I want to take this system and make it this much better. And I want to take these people and make them this much better. Those, coupled with that significance, that learner and maximizer, take it in and then output it in a very maximized way. Those probably, in my mind, might have played a part in that. What would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, learner, obviously you see all the books. Like, I'm a big book person. You can see my library. I had a boss tell me once, books are your love language. So he knew exactly way to my heart every Christmas or birthday or whatever it was. But learning, I had to learn to adapt, like going through different industries, learning to adapt, but learning, how can I help? How can I take this information and help in different ways in the business? But maximizer, it's interesting that you talk about that, because that was probably one of the biggest compliments that I ever had. Working, about 2021, building a company from the ground up. It was a fulfillment center, building that company from the ground up. And we were investing in really wanting to make the culture different, because around here, warehousing and distribution, a dime a dozen. Like, you could throw a nickel and like hit, warehousing and distribution around here. It's like, how do we do this differently? How do we not just make this the same, same thing? And so it was really about creating this learning path, learning journey, and really focusing on doing something different with the culture. And the owner said to me, like, we were probably like 6-8 months in, to doing all this development and with all the employees we did leadership development from, frontline workers all the way through management. So it was for everybody. So we weren't just like, oh, only management is special enough to get, training and, develop their skills. But he said, I can give you anything. I give you a budget and you take this and then you continue to give me return on my investment. Because no matter what that was, it was like maximizing those pieces of one training. And I would continue to make additional trainings on that, or follow-up questions, or creating better discussions for performance management, one-on-ones, whatever it was. I was like continually taking parts of it and expanding it to just make it even better. And so that was probably one of the biggest compliments I ever had, was like, you don't let anything go to waste. Like you will use everything you possibly can and wring it dry. Make sure that, you feel like that money really went somewhere, so you didn't feel like it was a waste.
Yeah, and I have to imagine your responsibility achiever help you in doing that even more, because whenever I see responsibility achiever in someone's top 10, I know that they're probably some of the most reliable, productive, high-performing people in any organization, let alone when you have your own business. Because that responsibility, it has an external grab. If they tell someone they're going to do something, that word is gold. And that achiever is that internal need to get as much done as possible, starting every day at zero to see how much we can rack up. So those people are usually hungry, like, what can we do? Now you add in that maximizer, the significance of working on these, right? Mm-hmm. These teams and these organizations that you can make this impact on. I have to imagine discipline and focus come into play for you, where you can just zone in and get things done. I just imagine you're the queen productive lady. Like, is that true? Tell me, like, am I reading this right? Are you like a productivity queen?
As you know, that really gets in the way sometimes of like wanting to achieve, like, how much more can I do in one day? And sometimes it's hard to like stop and walk away and say, okay, like we're done here. But I think that's what made working in the startup environment so great, like using that maximizer, going, okay, we have to do more with less. Like, we don't only have so much budget. We have to like figure out how to make this work. We have to get creative, but moving, always like pushing forward. The achiever thing definitely gets, I get hit with that a lot. Burnout can definitely set in, But again, when someone is giving me a budget and saying, here's our goal, here's what we're trying to do, I'm like, I'm going to do everything in my doggone power to make sure that I deliver and that I'm doing everything I possibly can, and rallying the troops together as much as we need to get it done.
Yeah, I love hearing that responsibility in you, Lindsay. That responsibility has helped you and I in a couple of ways. I have high responsibility too. But when Lindsay and I first started talking and going over a couple years ago about what we do and how we can help each other and what we, how we might start working together, I would say it's Lindsay's responsibility that she keeps coming back and circling back and reaching out and talking and communicating with me, because mine is high, but I tend to, I can let things go that I shouldn't. I can, even though I'll feel it eventually and get back. Lindsay's responsibility has always been, hey, Bill, how are you? I have something else. We have a common friend, somebody I just talked to. I want to communicate that. Let's talk about it. Let's meet for tea. We joked about tea or coffee this morning. Lindsay and I have been to my tea shop frequently, and we'll catch up. We'll talk on tea. And Lindsay, I just see that high responsibility and that achiever, because she's always, and a little of that maximizer that we're talking about too, because she's always coming in and meeting me and then saying, remember, we talked about this and we can maximize this. And remember how we've done this, we can do this. So again, not only in just your, hardcore developed world, you use it structurally so well from a personal point of view, from a let's reach out and talk point of view, that I just want to commend you on that, Lindsay.
Thank you. Sometimes it can get me in trouble. I guess I always go back to like one of these anchors with me that I call it like an anchor of something that it was like, I don't ever want to disappoint someone. So if I don't follow through, if I don't have that responsibility to finish something, I'm like, oh, don't talk to her. She's flaky, or she's not going to do that. Or I'm like, I never want someone to think that, which is why I'm like so focused on, no, make sure I follow through, make sure I do that. And which does get me into trouble sometimes of saying yes to too many things. But That's
And
another
honestly,
topic.
I hear that focus discipline tied into that responsibility achiever. I mean, you've got 4 executing themes, and I always say, like, a lot of our themes, they couple up and make superpowers. And that's why I was saying you're like this productivity queen, because you have this superpower of doing it, right? And then I imagine you're strategic. I saw your coffee mug just a second ago, the YouTube folks. It said, "Hope is not a strategy." And I was like, whew, it is on my business. Because I don't have strategic in my top 10, but I know that that's right. But one of the things I just want to hold on to for a second is you talked about the burnout that can happen. And that's the second thing. When I see responsibility achiever in the top 10, we talk about how good they are at being high performers. And then we talk about the burnout, because inevitably it comes up, because these folks often have a hard time saying no. You just said you overcommit.
Yeah.
And it's because you can. And so what I'll tell people, I don't know if this is helpful to you, but I'll say, okay, if we take productivity and we put it on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like as productive as you can be, 1 being sitting on your couch doing nothing, you are trying to get as close to 10 as you can. But the thing to know is, you high responsibility achiever people, your 10 is other people's 15. Okay. So your 10 is higher than what mine is. And just because you can go to 10 does not mean you should, because that is where burnout happens. You cannot stay on boiling point the whole time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not going to tell you to go to a 6, because I know that's not realistic. You want to push it forward. I'm going to say, try to set at an 8.5. I know it's going to feel like, oh, I think I can push higher. And maybe you can, but we got to give ourselves a little wiggle room so we don't burn out. Because again, remember, your 10 is other people's 15.
Well, and God, give us some wiggle room, right? Not just yourself. Yeah. Help me. Lindsay, help
people
me.
around you.
Yeah.
But because I just see it happen all the time. I feel like I just am constantly coaching and working with folks that are that pushing to the limit. But it's like the airplane, you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on the children.
Yeah.
Because if you are not there, then like nothing else happens. And that's what happens with our high achiever, high responsibility people, especially you, the queen over here with discipline and focus in there too. You're probably, and in all your jobs and with your business, holding so much up that if you crumble because you've burnt out, then think of everything that crashes and burns. So in order to maintain this for the long haul, to marathon it, you have to take care of yourself, which means you have to have the boundaries to say no and to really prioritize. So I'm curious, have you found ways to say no? Are you still on that journey? What's that look like for you?
Yeah. So for me, if I'm on the couch, I'm feeling guilty because I'm on the couch, like not doing something. So that is certainly something I have struggled with over this last year. I have learned, really calendar blocking has really helped me to say, hey, this is my time. Like this doesn't move. Like, getting really into like more of my like health and fitness journey, going to the gym is really helpful for me to like kind of process through. If I'm feeling anxious, like, oh, I need to get that done, or there's so many things, or I have so many ideas, I get really creative, like, oh, here's all these things I need to do. I need to create content. I need to do the, like I need to create the digital product. It's like constantly thinking about things, and I would give up, like a client would call or a new client would call. I'm like, oh, I really need to talk today. But I had like, or already something scheduled for some downtime or the gym. And I'm like, okay, delete the gym. I'm like, no.
Right.
I have stopped doing that. It's like, no, and we can figure that out. I have also eliminated like where I put in like discovery calls or sales calls. Like I do them on certain days of the week. So I'm not just constantly thinking about those days. So I can be in the right mindset to do those. It's like, okay, those are Tuesdays and Thursdays. Like that's just how it's been for me. And just learning to leave I work at home. And so that's always really hard because you can just be in there and you can just work all day long. I mean, I look up and I'm like, oh, it's dark. It's, I've been sitting here for 5 hours and haven't moved. And so getting really good about timers to get up to remind me. My dogs are helpful sometimes because they're like, hey, we haven't been outside. Do those kind of things or go for a walk, but really closing my door, like leaving my office and saying, it's okay. It's Saturday. I don't have to go in there. But it's still something I struggle with all the time when I feel like, oh, I have to do this, or I'm behind, or I didn't set my goals, or I'm not doing this. Yeah, that guilt really sets in, and that's a really tricky thing I think a lot of entrepreneurs probably struggle with that too, is like, no, you have to keep grinding. Like you have to be in hustle mode all the time. But like you said, you can't pour from an empty cup. And so if I'm not taking the time to make that separation, like I'm no good to my clients, I'm no good to my spouse or friends or anything if I'm not kind of making some of those separations and giving up control of having to do everything right now. Like everything is not a priority. Like it doesn't have to be done to just be on the list does not mean it has to be done today.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I'm curious. So you're an HR professional. Should we just say HR professional? Because I know that you coach and work with people in the HR realm, but I also know that you don't want to step into a permanent HR role with those companies based on conversations we've had. So can you hit me for a minute with just what you see that looking like what that coaching role is, how you step in, and then how do you step out, or at what point do you do that? And then touching on that, you have high Relator and high Futuristic. So you really like building those deep bonds, and you're thinking in the future how we can do more of that. Have you ever experienced a little of that separation anxiety because you've built that bond and you've thought where this can go, and then now I need to step away because that's what I do? Or is that not what are you just friends with everybody you've HR'd throughout the years and that's still working? So hit me with that. I'm curious.
Yeah. So moving from like internal roles, I worked internal HR, type roles in my career, and then going into more of that strategic piece. But again, when I first started my business, it was to partner with businesses to perform HR outsourcing. So doing that day-to-day transactional type HR work, which ended up being very draining for me. And I wasn't really in my zone of genius, if you will. Like, yeah, I can do it and I'm good at it. Like I love admin work. But at the same time, I really got into more of that strategic role of helping people visualize, like, where do you want your company to go, and how do we create the mission and vision and values, and how do we operationalize that into your culture and create great workplaces? And so that's what I really started to transition into, working with the small business founders. And, I think it is hard because I don't always get to see the end result. Like once I have a strategy, I'm like, oh, here's the things that we're going to do. I'm not in there in the day-to-day to see how they're actually doing it, see if it's working. But I know if I'm not hearing from them saying, hey, I'm continuing to have turnover problems, or I'm continuing to have these issues, then I know something has been working well. A client that I worked with in Arizona, they were brand new, like nonprofit, and had to build everything from the ground up, hire new people, but they really wanted to make sure that they built it the right way. And so I'm like, well, they had their mission and their vision and some values, but I'm like, let's take this a step further. Like before we start hiring, to fill roles on your team, what are your values and mission? Like, what does that look like in terms of behaviors? And so we started talking about core behaviors and saying, what does that look like? What is the everyday? And so we can really build that into the interviewing process and getting the right people in the right roles. And so a lot of it is, I think with coaching in general, you're kind of just asking powerful questions to draw things out of people, to have them tell you like what it is that they want. What is their vision for their company? Like, do you want to be a $1 million company, or do you want to be $100 million company? My approach to what we're doing is going to be based on that. So I need to understand the owner as a leader, how they like to operate. And then we start to kind of lay out that groundwork of what that looks like to work together. And, there's always changes, always evolving. And I think I'm just trying to take that Relator piece and say, well, I've been in your shoes. I know this. I've worked in startups. Here are some things that you can expect to happen, but also listening to the challenges that they're experiencing that may be unique to their industry, and saying, okay, how do we problem solve? How do we overcome this obstacle for you? But really helping them and like really empathize with what they're going through. I think that helps because I've been in their shoes. I've been in not only for my own business of trying to wear all the hats, but also working internal HR as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's perfect. That's really good. Touch on the separation anxiety for a second, because I know you mentioned it, but have you been involved with the HR realm and felt, man, I'm really making a difference here, but it's time to go? And how does that play in that relationship version for you?
Yeah, that can be hard. I know, for example, so the company that I helped build from the ground up, the distribution company, it was really hard because we built everything up, and then it was the owner decided, okay, it's time to sell the company. Like it was basically like a turnkey business and wanted to sell. And I'm like, but it's my baby. It's like, I've done so much that like, what's going to happen to it? And even after it was sold, like some of the people stay and you could like, but I would get feedback from what's happening. Like, oh, they're not doing this anymore. They're not doing this. I'm just like, it was just like, like to the heart, of all this, like my blood, sweat, and tears into this. So that can be really hard. But sometimes it's okay. I had to learn to make that separation of saying, I'm giving you the tool, like teach a man how to fish, kind of thing. And I have to be in that mindset of I'm giving you the tools, the frameworks to be able to do this for yourself. I want to empower you to be able to take your business to the next level, but that may not be with me. But the great part about that, how I've kind of transitioned out of that separation anxiety is to form strategic partnerships. So I have formed really strong relationships with HR outsourcing firms where once I get, our strategic piece done, here's the framework. I'm like, now to carry this on, if you want someone in the day-to-day, you can work with so-and-so and someone that I trust. And so I feel comfortable saying, okay, fly birdie, like you're out of the nest now. Like, and that I think has really helped me to not feel that guilt of saying, okay, I did my work. Bye. Have fun with that. See what happens. And so I think that's the one thing that I learned this last year that's really helped me to kind of overcome that fear of, oh, they're going to think I just deserted them. Like, oh, take my money and I give you a strategy and, bye.
Yeah, I hear touches of that responsibility in there too, so much where I have responsibility. I've built you from the ground up and my responsibility is with you to make sure you're here and now. I can't fulfill that responsibility. Kudos to you for being able to say, I know I can take you to a better place. Often, and we've said it on this show before, we think I can't care more than you do. I cannot be invested more than you are. And if they are saying our time is done and you have done everything you can and still hearing it from the other side, man, I wish they were doing more of that. As coaches, I think we all resonate with that. We all feel that where suddenly a client is not investing in anything or the resources for the people to keep them engaged. And you've made so much good headway to do that. We're fortunate too that we have businesses on the other end of that, where they keep investing and they want to keep building. And we highlight those on this show too. So really, really grateful for that honesty, because that can be really hard from a coaching point of view.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Sarah, I cut you off, I think. Were you jumping in on this?
I might have was going to, but now I forgot what I was going to say. Just podcast gold right there.
And just cutting out. That'll be a part of our edits. I absolutely get it. So you mentioned too your ability to focus. It's number 10 for you. Focus people also have that ability to really continue working hard, place supercharges in many ways. Maximizer, it'll supercharge responsibility. They'll bounce off each other and hit on that. Do you find your effort and ability to just stick to it is really a blessing, or sometimes would you say that that might be getting in your way?
Yeah, the focus one is kind of interesting for me because I tend to put my mind on something for a minute, but then something can very easily distract me going, okay, I think that we're going to go a different direction. And so my focus is kind of limited. Like if I have any resistance or pushback, I feel like my focus can be broken, which is kind of interesting. And so to see it's kind of in this top 10, but I do stay on track because I have that need for that achiever, to a certain degree, but I'm also like, okay, well, I did that. Now let's move on. And so I don't know, my focus can be kind of, if something else shiny, I call the shiny object, if that something else goes, oh, well, that's interesting. I can go maximize that. I may just change my focus, or I'll tell myself, well, I need to focus on creating, content or whatever it is for business. But I'm like, oh, actually, I should really be focusing on streamlining my internal processes. And so I think it day to day, depending on if I'm craving creativity, because that's something that helps me if I get kind of in that burnout mode, if I get in that creative mode of creating content or visuals or whatever it is, that helps kind of get me out of a little bit of a funk.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this. I think I heard your focus come out when you talked about the success you've had with time blocking. A lot of times when I have folks with focus, especially because of how our world is right now, it's like so shiny object focus. Our phone bings and we're constantly taken out. So I have a lot of people who struggle to hone in on their focus, but they find that when they can give themselves time and space to focus, they can kind of invest in it more and it gets stronger. And so when I hear you say, yeah, when I've been time blocking and saying, no, I am going to go to the gym. No, now I'm going to work on this project. To me, that is harnessing that focus power. But you have a ranger at 12, and I wonder if that sometimes competes with your focus of that, like, because, right, a ranger can sort of coordinate a lot of moving pieces. And so I wonder if, your ranger's like, oh, we could do this now. And, so sometimes we have that like strengths in conflict. And so you're like, okay, no, my focus, my discipline, my achiever responsibility, we want to finish this thing. We're going to get it and go. And a ranger's like, but we could also sneak this in. I don't know. Does any of that resonate with you? Am I hitting on anything or not?
Oh, yeah. I over time, I never used to be like this as a kid, like in school or anything, but the pressure mode is my big motivator. And so I think that's why I'm like, yeah, I can squeeze that in. And it almost gives me the pressure of I can do both in this hour. So I think that is where that can happen. I was like, yeah, it'll be fine. But that's, again, saying yes to too many things can kind of come into play there. But yeah, I think you're right. The focus, I do like to take that, and by having that time blocking, then I can come back. I feel like refreshed where I'm like, okay, now I'm sitting down and I'm like ready to do this. I'm like, ignore the phone. I'll turn it off. Whatever needs to happen. Like I'm going to get this done right now.
Yeah.
But I kind of like that little bit of like pressure, like timeline, like you got to get this done now. And then I'm like, okay, let's knock it out. And then at that point, nothing will distract me at that point. And that's when I sit at my desk and it's dark outside and I'm like, oh, guess I've been sitting here a little too long.
I've been here a long, there's that hallmark of focus. I've been here.
There it is.
What just happened? Where am I? And
or I'm like, I can't get up until I get this done. And I will just keep going until I get it done.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. You hear that happen. I sometimes think too, I don't know, Bill, I'll be curious. Do you have a ranger, Bill?
I do not. It's not very high for me. A ranger's I think it's in my floor. It's about 16, 17, somewhere in there.
Okay. I'm just curious. I think I have found that as an entrepreneur, my arranger gets turned on fire because there's so much to do, right? Like when you have a regular job, people with regular jobs have a lot to do. Don't get me wrong, but like you have a job to do. But when you are an entrepreneur, you have every job to do, especially if you're a solopreneur.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I find that it sometimes in a good way and sometimes in a bad way, my arranger loves the chaos sort of, oh, I'm going to look at my budget. And now I'm going to email this client. And now I'm going to call this person back. And then I'll be like, ding, 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 ding. And I might get a lot done, but then I might also just get in and start a lot. I also have activator, so I can get in there and just like boom, 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 boom. And it feels good, but I don't always like in the day feeling accomplished.
Yeah.
Got a lot going, but it's also like a lot has to be done.
Yeah.
So I'm on my own personal journey with trying to harness a ranger in her good ways and leave away her basements.
Very smart. Yeah. I looked, a ranger's 16 for me. It's 17 for our guest, Lindsay. So we feel
a ranger's
the
12 for her.
Of a ranger. Oh, is it 12? I missed. I'm sorry.
Yeah, 12.
And it's 16 for me. So, but going back to the focus component, I don't have a lot of focus, and I think an absolute perfect way to exemplify that is while you were talking, Sarah, are you wearing half a sweater around your arms?
I am just cold.
What is
that?
Okay, I saw her.
Sorry.
I saw something. I saw her arms moving and something else was going, and I just couldn't. So again, my focus gets, I feel like we're talking, we're going over, then I'm like, what's going on over there? So I know she's half cold. Her arms alone are cold. So it's pretty funny. So, excellent. So, well, we've hit on a lot.
Perfect example of terrible focus.
Yeah,
Bill Dibble.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Mine's really low. So I'm like, I can't focus on anything. I got nothing. Well, let's focus on this for a second. Lindsay, we've danced around a lot of the ways that strengths have really helped you and gotten to where you are. Can you give us what you think the prime example of the dumpster fire of strengths is for you? when one gets in your way or maybe hinders what you're trying to get done?
Oh, how much time do you have? No. um,
It's our
podcast.
You go as long as you want.
Yeah, we just go to people are sleeping. Futuristic is my number 2, and that can really get me in trouble. And I think I'd say that's probably the one I struggle with the most, not only with myself and owning my own business, but with clients as well, because I can you go in and having a fresh pair of eyes, like you immediately start to pick up on things that maybe they're not seeing about their own business, or like there's just keywords. People are like, oh, you're like right off the bat already thinking like, well, here's this. And I start thinking about the patterns. You ask more questions and you're like, well, this is very simple. And here's how I'm going to solve that. And I sometimes get so caught up in the solutions and going, oh, I can do this, and we'll do this. And this will be, in 6 months from now, like this won't be a problem. And they're just like, wading water and like just barely head above water in the day to day. And I'm like, oh, wait, that's really bothering you right now. Like, how do we get you out of this drowning mode right now before we can even focus on that? I mean, the biggest thing I ask, potential clients before I meet with them is like, what's going to be like the biggest roadblock or barrier of us working together? And you know what the number one answer is?
I'm really busy.
No time. Don't have the time to complete.
Time. Yeah, it's always time. I'm like, okay, well, if you don't have time to like focus on like, how are we ever going to get past that? And so that's always an interesting conversation. But I can present all of these ideas of here's the roadmap. Here, we're going to do this, and it's 3 months, and this week we're going to do these things. And this just recently happened where it was like, yeah, we had this great plan of we're getting all this stuff done. And then, life happens. People get sick, things come up and we had to bump things out. And it's like, okay, now we're not on track. And now I'm like, oh, now my brain is like exploding because I'm like, well, but we're not on track anymore and we're not moving forward. Instead of saying, hey, that's okay. Like we can focus on the present and let's listen. Let's take a little bit more baby steps as opposed to just launching you into like future status. It's going to take a lot longer to get there. A lot of time, especially if it's an established business that I'm working with, a startup, or if they're just hiring their first employee, that's a little bit different. We have a little bit more room to kind of go in launch mode and then kind of adapt from there. But, even in my own business thinking, well, what am I going to do in 5 years? Well, is this going to be sustainable? Like I'm thinking so far ahead. I'm like, hey, I didn't even build that system yet. Why am I worried about what it's going to do in 5 years? I haven't even figured that out yet.
Right.
And I think it makes me not be present in what I'm doing or celebrating the little wins along the way, especially as a business owner, of saying, yeah, maybe I didn't get everything on my goal bingo card this year, but look at all the things that I did that knocked off a lot of those squares. Or maybe things changed and I went on a different trajectory because I didn't follow that particular path.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the big futuristic, getting too far ahead of, will this work? Won't it work? Instead of saying, hey, let's celebrate what's working right now.
Excellent representation of the gap and the gain, right? Mm-hmm. What is the gain that I did this year? Forget the gap. It's okay. Those things are still on the list. They'll be there next year. They'll be there in a couple months. I can still... But look at all the gain and look at everything we did to achieve that.
And honestly, just the incredible articulation of Futuristic's blind spots. I mean, I think that there's probably thousands of people with Futuristic right now going, yes, yeah, same, yes, same.
Yes. Well, and we had a mutual friend, you and I, Lindsay, of Allie Alden on a previous podcast. And she also highlighted how her Futuristic, particularly when she's working with another high futuristic person, they go, right? They spin, they move, they keep moving, they keep getting higher, they go. And then they realize, oh, well, here's our agenda. We didn't do anything on this. We just thought out there.
Yep. And I, personally worked with Allie on my business and we partnered together. And that was something we'd be in our, our meetings and our strategic sessions. And we would just go off on tangents together. And I was like, we're on this rocket ship and we're just like going. We're just going. And we're like, oh, wait, our time is up. And we didn't do anything on our agenda list.
Yes.
And we got so caught up. And so it was one of those things where I was like, I meet with her every now and again too. And still see her. I'm like, ooh, okay. we're getting futuristic, I try to like stop myself from getting too far ahead of
And from my point
So,
of view, I need you, right? I need Allie.
yeah.
I need Renee. I need those futuristic people because I don't spin that up. So while I know you look at it as the possibility of hey, that got in my way, it is still a really powerful theme that when brought to the right circumstance or situation, it solves so many issues, especially for guys like me who don't possess it. And then I rely on you. I need you to think a little in advance for me because I'm only living in the here and now.
Yeah.
And I think it's so cool that you and Allie both have done strengths and know that. So, and you have that awareness. So you can sit in a meeting and call it out because you have a shared language where you can say, oh, are we on a futuristic rocket ship right now? And you both know, okay, like let's look at the agenda and see what we should be doing because you've had that experience, you have that common language, so you're able to call it out. And I think that is one of those powerful things we see where teams are using this. Because sometimes it can be hard to acknowledge, or what do we call it? Or if I say this to this person, are they going to be offended? But when we can sit and say from a positive point, hey, we both have this talent and it's so incredible, but right now it is causing us to be distracted.
Yeah.
Let's bring it all back to the here and now. Like now you get more productive meetings, which is what you want probably because you are the productivity queen.
Yeah. And that's what I really love. And bringing in the Strengths Finder is something that I, for this next year, am building into kind of the work that I do with clients because I need to understand how they operate. And so that way we know how to work together. And so I know how to approach situations. If I know they're also futuristic or I'm like, okay, we need to understand how do we help each other through that and stay on track. Or if, whatever their, strengths are, if they're just, kind of activator, but they don't know, they have all these great ideas, but don't know how to put them into play. I'm like, great, tell me what you want. And I can help kind of build out a strategy to do that or help you achieve that. And so I really love, and this is something that I brought up with Bill over tea, spilling the tea, which is totally different, but we do some of that too.
We do. We spill tea in a good way. Yeah.
Yeah. But talking about like, how do we partner and like, how do I increase the relationship or improve the relationship with my clients, and really starting before I help them with their business, I want to understand them. How do they operate? And then how do I build it off from there? And so that's something I'm really excited to really build in to that. And I found it's really been a great tool, like even a simple like top 5 or top 10 like Strength Finder tool is really great. And I've used it for like state interviews, what I call state interviews with employees as well. Because sometimes people get into roles and they kind of sit there for a while, they get comfortable, or maybe the company is smaller, so there's not a lot of wiggle room for them to go into. But okay, if we're going to keep this employee and keep them engaged, let's understand, what are their strengths, what do they like to do, and how do we maximize on that? And so one question I really like to ask a state interview is, what's a skill or a talent that you have that we're not currently tapping into?
Yeah.
Good question.
And what I love is they're kind of taken aback at first and going, oh, what skill? Like, well, I think I'm applying everything that actually, and they'll sit on it for a second and come back. And one particular instance I had in a business, and she was a customer service person, really great, got, certified in customer service, like was really great in that role. And I had another position come up, and, she actually had an IT background. And so she really liked the analytical, loved being the back end of certain things. And that was in some previous roles that she held. And when I asked her that question, and she was like, well, I have all these IT skills and I learned systems really well. And, deployment of new, systems in the warehouse or whatever it is. And I'm like, thinking in the back of my head, I'm about to hire for a position to help someone with this warehouse management system. Why am I going to look outside if I have someone here who is really interested in doing that and would be thrilled and energized by doing that type of work? I'm like, ding, like moving her into that role just made sense. We made it happen and she thrived. I mean, like she just lit up. She was a completely different person, putting her in something that she loved to do. And that was her strength. And it was like, had I not asked that question, she was going to be still doing great in the role that she was in, but she wasn't going to be happy. And how long was that going to last before she's like, I need to move on because this isn't doing it for me anymore.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
and I love you pointing out too of the difference of someone. There are people out there, you're probably one of them, Lindsay, who will be good at any job they do. But there is a difference between having someone who's good at a job and someone who's thriving in a role.
Yeah.
And we want people to be thriving in a role because, like you said, they're going to stay, they're going to give more, they're going to innovate more. They're not just going to be like, okay, well, yes, I'm getting good scores on my performance review and I'm hitting my metrics. But honestly, I'm just like,
yeah.
And they're at a risk. They're not engaged.
Yeah.
That is not an engaged employee.
Exactly.
And I love the work that you're doing of getting people in the right seats and helping other companies do that. It's really, really cool.
Yeah. And I love it too. Like I said, that same interview, or if you're looking at, reviewing job descriptions, maybe you can move people around. Like maybe you like I found with a recent client who kind of went through that process. I'm like, well, this person's actually really great in like they want to like organization and, self-starter, like all these different things. And I'm like, but you have them in a role where they are not, or like a woo role, and they're not interacting with people. And I'm like, we gotta figure out how to change this around. How do we just maybe change the job descriptions to get these people doing some of these things that they like to do? And like I said, be in that area of genius, right?
Yeah.
And
So
help
good.
them. Yeah.
That area, keeping them there and allowing them to expand. In your example, Lindsay, the ability to have that person know, hey, not only am I good at what I do, but I have something else I can do that will mean more and align me to the mission statement of the company and give me room to grow. That's Sarah, exactly to your point. That's the difference between I'm doing okay and I'm really thriving. I'm now a mission critical part of what we're doing and moving forward. And I'm aligned with what we want to do and get done here. And if I just hung out in IT and fixed computers, I'm still part of the process. But the really important component there is somebody noticed me. Somebody noticed something in me that wasn't being utilized and saw that I would be good at this. And that is a flourishing moment. That's our coaching gold that we can step into and say, I really wanted to make this work for you. And kudos to you for asking the right question at the right time. You're absolutely right. That is the coaching goal, is to have the right question at the right moment to get and elicit the correct responses that make it most meaningful for those people. And it sounds like you got it. You're pretty good at it. So,
well, I try,
All right, Bill, I think it's time to ask her our special question.
Well, let's hit it. I'm ready. Are you ready, Lindsay? We've asked you some hard ones. We're going to throw you a out of the box one. This will be kind of like an HR question you ask people when you're hiring them. It's not a run of the mill. What do you think you do well? We're going to have you out of the box. So, you ready?
Okay.
All right.
Whoop. Ready as I'm going to be. Okay.
Your strengths are running for president. What is the campaign slogan?
I'm coming up with two. I'm coming up with two different ones. So,
really, a maximizer's coming up with more than one? I'm surprised.
Yeah,
but go on.
I know. I just want to make sure that I have a full responsibility to give you all your options.
I love it.
How about overthinking the future, overachieving today, because tomorrow deserves the best.
Wow.
Oh, so good. Built on
really
everything
good.
we talked on today. How good is that?
Or okay, so here's your second option.
Well, I love overthinking the future. I mean, I'm admitting that I will overthink the future, which is both a positive and a negative. That is so good. So what's your second one?
I've got a vision for the future and backup plans for the backup plans.
Oh,
they're both good. They are
both good.
They are both good.
I think I like the first one
I
better.
like the first one.
Yep. Read it to us one more time. I want to hear this. Lindsay Bradley for president and
overthinking the future, overachieving today, because tomorrow deserves the best.
Wow.
It's actually a great slogan.
It's so good.
That's a really good slogan.
Good.
That is a really good slogan.
That plays.
I'm totally into that.
Lindsay, you have my vote.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Lindsay, I'm all in. So, well, thank you for that, Lindsay. And Lindsay, you have been absolutely amazing to have on with us today. I'm fortunate I get to work with you off and on. As she highlighted, we're working towards co-coaching and making sure we understand some of each other's clients a little better and how we can springboard that. So I really look forward to that, how we get you in with some of those a little better foothold, and how amazingly easy it is to have those discussions like you had with your IT person when there's a sheet in front of them that says, you can build right on this information that we know about you. Start there.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And thank you so much for coming on today. It's always a big ask, and we ask a lot of the time of the people that come in. So thank you for coming in and sharing your thoughts around Gallup and CliftonStrengths, as well as what you do for a living.
Yes, absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you for having me. We could talk for hours. I could really maximize this whole scenario.
We believe that.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt. And we would hold you here for another 2 hours, 3 hours. But in fairness to our listeners, I should tell them all, I actually led Lindsay astray a while back, and I had her on the show. Just once I really led her astray, where I had her on the show, but for some reason I didn't put it on a calendar, and she notified me and like, "Are we on today?" And I was like, "I'm not even in the studio today. What are you talking about?" Or, so yeah. So I stepped on my toes once with her, sir.
So thank you so much, Lindsay, for still coming on the show. Right. That happened.
Thank you for letting me redo it, giving me a full redo on it, Lindsay. I appreciate it. So.
To be fair, Bill, you messed up that with a guest, but I have messed up many times with my technology. My technology is constantly causing us problems. So, we're just a work in progress over here. We're just trying to do the best we can.
Yeah. Lindsay, we need you to come help us on a regular basis, get our technology going. So, and from an HR point of view, you need to make sure that I'm not getting roasted all the time. Because I think.
Well, you like it. You literally admitted in the beginning how much you like it.
I do like it. I do like good roast humor. That is fair. So, all right, Lindsay, let's get you out of here. Go have some fun. Thank you so much for being on. And as a shout out to all of our arsonists, from the HR point of view, can we call our listeners arsonists? Lindsay, what do you think?
Ooh. And what I have not heard that context before.
See, the podcast is called Strengths on Fire. So we were
coming up with
talking about the fans being called arsonists because they start things on fire.
They light their strengths on fire. So we like it because it's a little edgy, but it does cause pause to some people. So
yeah, like lawyers in HR.
Just like now.
That's interesting. We should talk more about that. We should have a strategy session about that.
I feel like I'm in trouble now. Did you see me like backpedaling? I almost wanted to be we're just kidding. Don't go listen to any of the other episodes. They're called Shots.
Everything's fine. Actually, I'm about to get an invite to go to have tea this afternoon and be told arsonist is horrible. Watch, it's about to happen. But I am saying we will talk to our arsonists on the next episode. And thank you for all of our listeners and everybody chiming in. We will talk soon.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Strengths on Fire. If today's conversation sparked something in you, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. We're here bringing you fresh insights to fuel your growth and ignite your potential. Remember, your strengths are powerful, so let's keep the fire burning.
And if you're looking to transform your organization through strengths-based strategies and coaching, reach out to Sarah Collins, founder of Collins Collective, or Bill Dipple, founder of Bill Dipple Strengths Coaching. Connect with Sarah at wearecollinsco.com, follow her on Instagram at SarahCoachCollins, or email her at sarah@wearecollinsco.com, SARAH. You can reach Bill at BillDipple.com, Bill, DIPPEL.com, or on Instagram at BillDippleCoach, or email him at bill@BillDipple.com.
Please note the opinions, views, and interpretations of CliftonStrengths expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and the guests. They have not been approved, sanctioned, or endorsed by Gallup in any way.
Until next time, keep your strengths on fire and let's light up what's possible together. Bye, Bill.
Bye, Sarah.